What if I told you, most betrayals don't begin with lies? They begin with something much smaller, something that feels harmless, explainable, even innocent. And by the time you realize what's really happening, it's already too late. Welcome to Dark Narrative, where we don't just tell stories, we break them down. Because this isn't just a story about a relationship. This is a story about boundaries, and how people slowly cross them, while convincing themselves they haven't done anything wrong. Most people think betrayal starts with an obvious lie. It usually doesn't. It starts with something small, something that can still be explained away. This story is really about boundaries, and how people slowly cross them while convincing themselves nothing is wrong. Arman had been with Laila for 8 months, and on the surface, everything looked solid. They talked about marriage, shared routines, even planned parts of their future like it was already guaranteed. That's what made it feel safe. So when Laila mentioned her trip, 3 weeks visiting friends overseas, it didn't raise any alarms. It fit the image he had of her. Social, independent, trustworthy. But then, casually, almost like an afterthought, she added something new, 1 extra week, in a different city, staying with a male friend Arman had never heard of. Not a group. Not a quick meetup. A full week. Just the two of them. And here's where psychology becomes more interesting than the event itself, because Arman didn't react immediately. He paused. Not because it made sense, but because he wanted it to make sense. That's what trust does. It delays suspicion. The first real warning wasn't the trip itself, it was how the story changed. What had once been described as a simple visit suddenly expanded into something more intimate, more personal. And when Arman questioned it, Laila didn't act like someone who understood the weight of it. She acted like someone who thought it shouldn't be a big deal. This is where many people get stuck. Because now the conflict isn't just about the situation, it's about perception. Arman believed relationships required mutual respect and clear boundaries. Laila believed intentions mattered more than optics. Neither of them felt like the villain. And that's the dangerous part. Most bad decisions don't feel wrong when you're making them, they feel justified. Arman gave her a choice, go on the trip, or lose the relationship. And when she quickly offered to cancel, something unexpected happened, it didn't fix anything. Because the issue was never the trip. It was the fact that she planned it in the first place. Here's where we need to step back and analyze. Why would someone plan something like this while being in a serious relationship? The answer often isn't as simple as cheating, it's uncertainty. People rarely admit this openly, even to themselves. Instead, they create tests. Situations that give them emotional flexibility. Laila's trip wasn't just a vacation, it was a quiet exploration of what else is out there. And Arman, on some level, sensed that. That's why his reaction was so firm. Not out of control, but out of pattern recognition. He wasn't reacting to one event, he was predicting a future. And most people ignore that instinct because they fear being wrong. Because if you're wrong, you lose something good. But if you're right, you lose it anyway, just slower and more painfully. After the breakup, everything escalated. Laila spiraled, crying, emotional outbursts, even involving her family. On the surface, it looked like regret. But emotionally, it was something else, loss of control. When someone believes they still have options, they behave differently than when those options disappear. And in one final conversation, the truth slipped out, not dramatically, but quietly. She admitted she wouldn't have planned that trip if she hadn't felt uncertain about the relationship. That single sentence reframed everything. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't harmless. It was a decision made from doubt. And that's the moment of psychological collapse, not when the relationship ended, but when Arman realized he had been standing on something unstable the entire time. The trust wasn't broken in one moment, it had been weakening long before he noticed. In the end, Arman walked away, not because he stopped caring, but because he understood something most people ignore: respect in a relationship isn't proven after you're caught, it's shown in the decisions you make when no one is watching. This wasn't just about a trip. It was about alignment. About whether two people see commitment the same way. And when they don't, no amount of love can fix that gap. This is why stories like this stay with us. They are not just about what happened. They are about why it happened. And maybe that's the real question this story leaves behind. Not, was she wrong? Not, was he too strict? But something deeper. How many boundaries can be crossed before trust quietly disappears? If this story made you think, or reminded you of something you've seen, or experienced, then you already understand why it matters. This is Dark Narrative, where every story has a deeper truth, and every truth has a darker side. Subscribe if you want stories that don't just entertain, but stay with you. Because the most dangerous betrayals are the ones that don't look like betrayal at all.